Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Putri Wulandari, and this is my video for the final test of Sociolinguistics.
And this is the topic number 1, that is language change. What is language change? Language change refers to how the features of a language, its pronunciation, vocabulary, grammar, and meaning evolve over time. This change is natural, inevitable, and happens to all living languages. A language that does not change in likely thus be a dead language, or like Latin or Old Japanese. Types of language change. The first is phonological change. Phonological change is the sound change. For example, like wife was once pronounced as wife. The second is lexical change. Is new words are added or borrowed from other language. For example, laptop or selfie. And the third is grammatical change. There is changes in structure or word order. For example, Old English had different verb endings, but now is simplified. And the fourth is semantic change. Its meanings of words shift over time. For example, the word sick used to only mean ill, but now in slang it can mean cool or awesome. Process of language change. The first is social interactions. People interact with new groups, leading to change. The second is technology and media influence, such as internet, texting, and social media introduce new expressions quickly. For example, LOL, DM, and viral. The third is globalization and cultural shift. As culture changes, so does language. The fourth is youth culture and migration. Teenagers often thrive slang and new word use. Example of language change. Old English has, modern English house. Gay used to mean happy, but now means homosexual. And there is slang like lit, ghosted, or in Indonesian there is mager atau malas gerak, and kabut artinya bosan. Internal versus external change. Internal change, the change that happens within the language system itself. For example, sound changes or simplifying grammar rules over time. And there is external change. It's caused by outside influence, especially other languages. For example, loan words in Indonesian from Dutch, English, Arabic, and Chinese like kulkas, gratis, and bakso. Language change and society. Language reflects identity like age, region, and class. Language and society are deeply connected. As society changes, language also follows. And from youth drive language innovation, young people are often the first to create or adopt new words. And the last is dialect and social groups influence changes. Local varieties may influence pronunciation and word choice. How do linguists study language change? The first is by analyzing historical takes. Linguists use various tools and data to understand how language evolves. Like compare old text with modern usage. And the second is sociolinguistics interview. Collect speech samples from people of different ages and regions. And the third is corpus linguistics, or large data, analyze large databases of real language use. The fourth is observing social media trends. Today, platforms like TikTok or Twitter are a source of rapid language innovation. And this is the case study. Sorry. In Indonesian language, English borrowing like meeting and deadline. There are slang, bucin, halu, and spoy, and kode mixing, aku lagi meeting, and also social media influence vocabulary. New words spread quickly through TikTok and Instagram trends. And the conclusion is language change is a natural and ongoing process that keeps a language alive, relevant, and adaptable to the needs of its speakers. It reflects the dynamic nature of society, culture, and technology, showing how language evolves alongside human life. Understanding language change, we gain valuable insight into how people live, think, and communicate, and how their identities and social structures influence the word they use. Thank you. That's all for the topic number 1. The next is the topic 2. And this is the topic 2, that is register. What is register? A register is a variety of language used for a particular purpose or in a particular communicative situation. It depends on the first is real, what is happening. The second is tenor, who is involved. And the third is mode, spoken or written, formal or informal. Characteristics of register. The first, that is vocabulary choice. The second, level of formality. The third is sentence structure. The fourth is tone and style. The fifth is pronunciation and intonation, or spoken. These types of register. The first is formal register, used in professional, academic, or ceremonial situations. For example, is speeches, news reports, and essays. The second is informal register, used among friends or in casual settings. For example, in texting and in the casual conversation. The third is natural register, is objective and factual. Example of different registers. The first situation is an academic presentation. The register is formal. For example, this study demonstrated blah blah blah. The second is situation. The situation is talking with friends. The register is informal. For example, hey, what's up? And the third is situation. And the third is the situation is instruction manual. The register is neutral. Example, insert the plug into the socket. Register versus dialect versus style. Register is based on situation. Dialect is based on region or social group. Style is based on individual's choice or mood. For example, a doctor may switch from a formal register with patient to informal with family, but still speak this in the same regional dialect. Why register matters? Because the first is helps in appropriate communication. The second is builds social identity. The third is avoids misunderstandings. And the fourth is shows respect and professionalism. For switching and registration, people often shift register depending on context. Code switching is switching between languages or varieties. For example, a student might speak formally to a teacher, but informally to peers. The conclusion is register is a language variety based on situation, influenced by field, tenor, and mode. It helps effective, appropriate communications and identify building, shifting between formal, informal, or natural depending on the context. And that's all for the topic 2. Sorry for the mistakes. And the next is topic 3. Thank you. And the topic 3 is style. What is style? Style refers to the way individuals use language depending on social context, audience, and personal identity. It includes word choice, such as formal versus casual words, jargon, or slang. Pronunciation, regional accent, or careful versus relaxed speech. Grammar, use of contractions, complete sentences, or colloquialism. Tone and delivery, polite, aggressive, humorous, etc. Style versus register. Style is about individual variation in language use. It's flexible and personal. Meanwhile, register is about situational language use, formal, informal, natural, based on social setting. For example, one person may have a humorous style but switch between formal and informal registers depending on context. A person with a humorous style may still use a formal register when giving a speech, or a casual register when chatting with friends. Factors influencing style. Audience is who you are talking to. For example, is friend versus boss. The topic is serious topics require more careful language between the Serious topics require more careful language than casual. Setting is where are you at? Are you at work, home, or a ceremony, or in online? Identity is age, gender, class, education, and culture. And intention is to pursue, show power, etc. types of style based on formality. Frozen style is ritualistic and changing languages. Set expression used in ritual, law, or religious context. For example, in national anthem. The second is formal style, used in speeches, presentation, and official settings. For example, in speech. The third is consultative style, professional but interactive. For example, teacher and student talk. The fourth is casual style, informal and relaxed. For example, talking with friends. And the fifth is intimate style, is private and personal. For example, family and close friends. Example of different style for frozen is we gather here today. Formal, it is imperative that we consider blah blah blah. Consultative, could you explain what you mean? Casual, wanna hang out later? Intimate, sweetie, I missed you. Style shifting. Style shifting is the ability to change one's style of speaking depending on the social context. People adjust their speech to fit different social situations. It can be conscious, for example, for politeness, or unconscious, or natural adaptation. For example, a person may speak more formally in a job interview and more casually with friends. Another example is a student may say, "Good afternoon, sir," to a teacher. It's a consultative style, but with his classmate is "Yo, dude," is used casual style. Why style matters? The first is it reflects who we are, our identity and background. It shows social awareness, knowing how to behave in various contexts. And the third is it builds or maintains relationships. Adapting to formality shows respect. And the fourth is it affects how others perceive us. Style can make us appear polite, rude, smart, careless, and etc. The conclusion is in sociolinguistics, style is how individuals vary their language according to social context, audience, and purpose. It is shaped by factors like identity, topic, and settings, and range across 5 levels of formality, such as frozen, formal, consultative, casual, and intimate. People naturally shift styles to communicate appropriately and maintain social relationships, knowing their awareness and competence in using language. That's all for the part 3. The next is the last. There is topic 4. Sorry for the mistake. Thank you. And this is the topic 4. There is context. What is context? In sociolinguistics, context refers to the surrounding circumstances in which communication takes place. It includes the first is physical setting, is where the communication takes place, like home, school, hospital, online, and etc. The second is social roles, is who is speaking and to whom. For example, student to teacher and child to parent. The third is cultural norms, with values, traditions, or etiquette that influence language use. The fourth is time and topic, is when the conversation happens and what is about. And what it's about. Why context matters. The first is it influences word choice and tones. For example, is informal versus casual vocabulary. The second is it determines the level of formality. For example, using sir or bro. The third is affect meaning and interpretation. Such as a joke may not be funny in the wrong setting. The fourth is it helps us avoid miscommunications. Wrong context is same as awkward or even offensive language. Types of context. The first is physical context, is where the conversation happens. For example, in school and home. For example, is a might whisper in a library but shout at a football match. The second is social context, is the relationship between speakers. For example, is you speak differently to your best friend than to your principal. Or teacher and student. The third is cultural context, is shared beliefs and norms. For example, how you greet or show respect may differ across cultures. The fourth is linguistic context, is what was said before. For example, she did it again. To understand this, you need to know what it refers to in the previous conversation. Example of contextual influence. The first is speaking at a wedding versus speaking at a job interview. Saying thank you in a wedding speech versus in a job interview, both polite, with different language choices and tone. Example second is talking to your mom versus talking to your principal. Talking to your mom, I'll be home late. But talking to your principal, I apologize for the delay in submitting my project. Example 3. Sending a text versus writing a formal email. The text message is, "Lol, you're awesome." Formal email is, "I appreciate your assistance with the project." Context and pragmatics. Pragmatics is the study of how context contributes to meaning. For example, can you pass the salt? Literally, this is a question. But in context, it's a polite way to request someone to pass the salt. Context and code switching. Code switching is when speakers shift between different languages, dialects, or speech varieties depending on the context. For example, a bilingual person using English in class but bahasa Indonesia at home. And another example is switching from formal Indonesian at work to Javanese dialect in casual settings. Code switching shows how people adopt their language use based on social roles, audience, and settings. Context and register. Register refers to the level of formality or type of language used in a specific context. Context helps decide if we use word is formal register, like in job interviews or speeches. Informal register, like in chatting with friends, and neutral register, like instruction manuals and signs. The conclusion is in sociolinguistics, context means the situation in which communication happens, including physical setting, social relationships, cultural norms, and previous conversation. Context shapes how we choose words, tone, and formality, helping us communicate clearly and appropriately while avoiding misunderstanding. And that's all from me for the topic 1, topic 2, topic 3, and topic 4 for the final test of sociolinguistics.